Hello, everyone. Ray Flowers here, fantasyguru.com. Sorry about that. Technology, right? Let me make a note here. I was wondering why we have so many comments in the chat room. We're good to go. We're rocking and rolling. Let me make sure that things are up on... By the way, this is Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Thanks for joining me today on Fantasy Sports Day. We had a technological issue here. I think we're going good now. So here we go. A little rocking and rolling for everybody. Apologize for that. Hopefully you're still with me. I probably just killed the entire audience. Morning, Doug. Hello. Okay, I'm looking at the chat now. We can hear me now, right? Okay. Lots of good things to talk about. I lost 20 minutes here. I've got a really condensed day, so I'm not going to be able to hit everything in as much depth as I was previously, but we're rocking and rolling now. Let's get to it. Let's throw up on the screen what we're going to be talking about today. You already know, but let's get to it yet again. Here we go. Let's talk to some of these players. Again, Fantasy Sports Daily here, 11 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday. I'll be on with Jeff Manstand on the Elite Sports Show. That's 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. I'm usually on with him on Wednesdays for 3 hours. Today, I'm on with him for an hour. We're going to talk baseball today. I think I'll probably be on most Mondays for the first hour of the show talking baseball, so it looks like that'll be the new plan on SiriusXM. Can't guarantee it, but I think that's what we're going to do, so I'll be on later today with Jeff for an hour. We've got the 3-hour show for Jeff, 3 to 6. I'll be on today with him, 3 to 4. The Elite Sports Game Time show is on 8 to 10 tonight. Myself and Justin Fensterman will be there talking to you, talking about everything that's going on live action sports. So check us out there. And we're here, obviously, doing this show Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. You can see on the screen there, I'll leave it up since I talked through it the last time. Edward Cabrera had a, let's just dive right in. I got more stuff to tell you and we'll get to it. Leave your comments and questions. I'll get to them at the end of the show. We're going to talk about players are up and down. We're going to talk about some performance issues, and we're going to talk about FAAB. So we'll go through all that as we normally do here on a Monday. Edward Cabrera had a great first outing against the Giants, struggled a little bit yesterday against the Cubs. And this is the Edward Cabrera experience. There's up, there's down, there's good, there's bad. The fact is that Cabrera's got a live arm and he's one to dream on, right? You don't go out and add Brice off the waiver wire. You add Edward Cabrera. Like, that's the move you make. And Cabrera, went out there, allowed 3 runs, 7 hits in his 5 innings of work. He had real issues throwing strikes. He had real issues throwing the ball in the strike zone. He struck out 7 guys, but he was all over the place. And this is the Cabrera experience. There'll be good efforts. There'll be bad efforts. He has been unable to consistently put together strong outings. And that's been the bugaboo for him for his entire career. Take a chance on the arm. Don't panic because it was a rough outing, but understand the rough outings are probably going to continue. It would be great if everything snapped into form here, and maybe it does. But he's kind of in that Hunter Green zone where, we got a great arm. We got a live arm with all this excitement. But the fact of the matter is that, there's just control issues. I mean, and that waylays you eventually. And it did in the effort yesterday for Cabrera. So some up, some down. Still a positive overall, I think. He's healthy, but we'll continue to monitor that. Jose Berrios, I talked about him last week. He's up to 4-0 right now. Obviously pitching over his head in the ratio categories a little bit. And he's not a dominant strikeout arm, but I jokingly said, look, maybe this is the season he wins 17 games. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's that season he breaks through because the fact that he's constantly going 6 innings. He makes 30 starts every year. He's athletic. He's got good mechanics. We'll see if he can continue what has been a terrific start to the season. Casey Mize, we talked about last week. Casey Mize, I wrote about over at fantasyguru.com. Maybe looked like a fool because he went out and threw 6 shutout innings against the Twins. Twins offense not performing very well. They got all kinds of injuries and all that, but he still pitched very well. At the same time, as we talked about in the article and here on the show, Casey Mize is just a guy. He's just a guy who threw like 11 innings the last 2 years, so there's significant workload concerns with him. Remember a couple years ago before that, when he was healthy, they were really cautious with his workload toward the end of the season. They were pitching him like every 3 innings every turn through the rotation. They were keeping him active but not letting him go innings. They've been cautious with him, have the Tigers. The Tigers have been very cautious overall, looking at the way they handle pitching. So I'm nervous about what the workload will look like for guys throwing 12 innings the last 2 years. I'm also nervous about the fact that he's got an 18% strikeout rate. And when you don't miss bats, and Mize doesn't miss bats, you just open yourself up to the big inning. You open yourself up to inflated ERA or an inflated whip because the ball's constantly in play, right? So he can't erase his mistakes. Cabrera can make mistakes. He can walk the bases loaded and then strike out 3 guys in a row. If Mize walks the bases loaded, which he won't do, but if he did that, he's got to hope he gets a double play. Like, he's not. So they're just different kinds of pitchers. And, because of that, I still have the same caution I did with Mize last week, even though he went out and threw 6 shutout innings against the Cubs this week. Speaking of the Cubs, they have a bullpen scenario. Let's not forget that going back to spring, their new manager, Craig Counsell, wouldn't commit to saying that this is what we're going to do, that we're going to go with Hector Neris this year, that everything is going to be fine. No, excuse me. He didn't say we're going to go with Hector Neris. Didn't say we're going to go with Mark Leiter. Didn't say he was going to go with Albert Alzolay. Alzolay ended up being the guy in the 9th inning because he was the guy in the 9th inning last year. But when a manager comes in and says, and I'm not going to name this guy my closer at the start of camp. So we've kind of been dealing with some issues there. Now, Alzolay's been removed from the role officially. Does not mean he won't lead the team in saves. Doesn't mean he won't be closing in 2 weeks, right? But he has been removed from now. My read of the scenario is probably the same as everyone else's, and I'm throwing my hands up because no one really knows, okay? I would say Hector Neris ahead of Mark Leiter right now. If I had Alzolay, I would try really hard to hold on to him. I'll talk about Leiter in a few minutes because I got him in a FAAB run this weekend. But my choice would be Neris to take over the 9th inning. Remember, Neris has had opportunities throughout his career, and every time that opportunity has come up, he seemingly struggled. He is a dominant arm. He is someone that can wipe out any opponent. He's kind of like Edward Cabrera. Like, he wipe any opponent out. He could be great for 10 appearances, and then over the course of the next month, his ERA is 9 and his WHIP is 1.9. Like, he has a really hard time being consistent, which is interesting because if you look at his numbers year to year, they're pretty good. There's always that hiccup stage. Again, right now, if I had to make a move, I'd go Neris. Hard to know if that's going to stick. Again, Alzolay could still lead this team in saves, so hold Alzolay if you had him. Add Neris if you can. Mark Leiter is a better option than a Souls League at the moment. Could emerge the 9th inning guy. Could. I still think he's third on that list in terms of long term. But if he gets a couple of saves here in the short run, he could pull a Kirby Yates. It could happen. Again, Neris for me is the guy, though, that I'd be targeting. Tanner Scott, who I was very fond of in this offseason, who's on a lot of my teams. I'm sure on a lot of your teams. Tanner Scott has struggled this year. No doubt about it. He's walked more than a guy an inning. Talking about losing the strike zone, you can't do that. And that was the big issue that vaulted Scott to dominance last year, is that he took his 15% walk rate and dropped it to 8%. If he gets back to 8%, he dominates. If he pitches like he's pitched before that or like he's pitching this year, it's a struggle. He did throw a perfect 9th inning against the Cubs on Sunday, looked really sharp. Let's hope that he's trending in the right direction here because he was an absolutely filthy dominant reliever last year, and he's absolutely completely struggled this year. Talking about pitching, I wanted to mention the name Mitchell Parker, who's come up and up and up. I get pitching being an issue. We talk on this show every day. We'll talk about it in a few minutes here about injuries on the hill. I'm always saying this is bad news, bad news. I get it. But we don't have to add every pitcher that gets called up, okay? Mitchell Parker is just a guy. Depending upon what source you look at, which scouting, on that 20-80 scale, he's a 40 or a 45. Now, when you're a 40, or even a 45 says you're an average major leaguer, or 40 says you don't even have to really be a full-time major league player. And I think that's fair because that also plays into the scouting report of Mitchell Parker that suggests that, look, he doesn't have any wow stuff. Nothing jumps off the page stuff-wise. He loses control of the strike zone at times, or at least more so than he should, given his lack of overall exciting stuff. Most sources anticipate him being a 5th starter or a swingman. Might have a 10-year career doing that, right? But he's not going to lead a rotation. He's not going to dominate opponents. He's not going to be someone that you in the fantasy space are likely to want to run out there on an everyday basis. That's just not how he profiles. So, I'm very lukewarm on Mitchell Parker, as you can tell. There are guys that have bigger arms that you're taking shots on. There are veterans. Get Kyle Gibson, who's sitting on your waiver wire, who's a veteran who knows how to pitch. Go get Kyle Gibson. Don't pick up Mitchell Parker. So be very cautious with Mitchell Parker. Saw a lot of Mitchell Parker discussion here, but he's just not really the type of pitcher, or actually the pitcher, that anyone should be looking for at the moment. Okay, let's move on to some offensive players. I'm trying to get things going here on social media and such after the fiasco with the microphone. Sorry about that. It happens at time to time. Hopefully we can all get through it. Hopefully I didn't disappoint too many of you with my 20 minutes of rambling with no sound. Jordan Westburg delivered a home run on the offensive side of things here for the Orioles. And, we talk about everyone else on this team for good reason, the Orioles. But, man, Jordan Westburg, 4 home runs, 3 steals the last 11 games. He's got 1,000 OPS. He's been really good. And it's easy to forget with all the other big name youngsters and all the hype and everything that Jordan Westburg was a pretty elite level prospect himself, right? It wasn't Adley Rutschman. He wasn't, Jackson Holiday, but still, he is really settled in now. And, he's someone that I wasn't very high on in the preseason. I think the community was kind of split on what to do, but thus far, he's been terrific. He has settled in, whereas Jackson Holiday's had the struggles. Jordan Westburg is building upon what he did last year with some excellence this year. Really like what I see out of the youngster right now. Nico Hoerner is someone that we talked about on the show. Nico Hoerner is someone that I answered questions about. Nico Hoerner is someone that was dropped or people were pissed off because of a slow start. Totally get it. The last 2 weeks, he's hit 370 with a 955 OPS. Last week, he scored 7 runs in 7 games while hitting 438. So the bat is alive. The bat has come around. He's up to 289, 784 OPS. This is who the bat is. Where's the running? He's got no steals. Now, I got to assume that's going to change quickly. But I just wanted to point out that Nico Hoerner, after that slow start, has rounded into form. That was always likely to happen. He's got to run. I still think 30 steals is in play, but he needs to run because the bat just doesn't overcome the lack of steals. If he steals 19 bases, he's Ahmed Rosario, so he needs to run. Wilyer, Abreu with the Red Sox is all of a sudden hot. He's playing daily against right-handed pitching. The team basically committed to that. They've got all kinds of injuries in the infield, so they're moving Rafaela around and all that. They don't have Triston Casas is dealing with the side issue. We'll talk about in a second. You've got Tyler O'Neill who's out. You've got Rafael Devers dealing with things. And all of a sudden, Wilyer Abreu, who has holes in his game and all of that, it's got to be in this lineup because A, they want to play him against righties anyway. But B, he's hitting 280 with a 390 on base percentage. They need the offense with all the injuries they're dealing with. So, he's not a 10 or 12 team league guy because he's not going to play every day. He's more of a 15 teamer in addition, or, you're hoping to roll through some righties this week. Check the matchups over at fantasyguru.com in the weekly planner piece. You're looking to roll through some matchups this week because the Red Sox are slated to face 6 of next 7 guys as right-handed pitchers. I'm not looking at the list. I don't know that's the case. I'm just saying. That's, an option for you to go with Mr. Abreu there. I always want to say his name wrong for some reason. I don't know why that is. It's very interesting. Okay. Let's talk a little bit now about the situation with Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia is another youngster. He's been around a few years, but he's a youngster with the Nationals. And the fact is that Garcia has done really well. He's hitting 317, 316, something like that, 475 on base, slugging percentage, excuse me. He's stolen 5 bases, qualifies at multiple positions. He is someone that you absolutely can add off the waiver wire if you have a need up the middle or in the infield. At the same time, he's not going to keep this pace up on the base paths. He's not a big power guy, and he swings a lot, right? So the batting average is very likely to mute out at 270. So, I think that Garcia is hot now. You want to make the move, the flexibility, the running, okay. He hit cleanup over the weekend, which is, that shows you how bad things are for the Nationals. Like, he shouldn't be in cleanup. But if he's in the middle of that lineup, he's going to play every day, it looks like, at this point. So not the worst addition. But again, not a power guy. The speed will slow. And his overall approach suggests strongly that, hitting 280 is probably the top end for him right now. Daulton Varsho. Dalton Varsho, we'll talk about him in a second on the FAAB run in one of my leagues. Dalton Varsho was released, and shouldn't have been released. Certainly in my leagues, but in your league, depends on the size of your league and all that. But he had a home run, a double, had 3 RBIs on a Sunday. He's just killing it of late. 5 home runs in 8 games, and all of a sudden, after a horrible start, all of a sudden he's got 5 home runs and he's got a 524 slugging percentage. Now, even with this greatness here and the power of late, he's hitting 238 with a 304 on base percentage. So you know who he is, right? We're expecting 25 home runs for him. We're expecting him to steal 15 to 20 bases. And he's going to hit 227 with a 312 on base percentage. He's not going to help you. He'll probably hurt you a little bit in both on base percentage and batting average. But I think there's enough in the counting categories and the overall game for him. I think there's enough there for him to be somebody that you can look at and say, yeah, okay, I can give a shot to him. Brice Turang has been terrific. Another one of these infielders that we talked about in spring but weren't on in spring. He showed up, and the bat has been good. He went 2 for 4. He's not playing against left-handed pitching, so he's being platooned. He's hitting down in the order. Okay, there's that as well. But he's 10 for 10 in steals. And he said in spring he was going to run more, and this is one of those, is this guy going to steal 40 bases this year? He's got the ability to do that. Now, we didn't think he'd get the opportunity to do that. The early returns suggest maybe that pipe dream is going to be realized. Note it's a long season, and that his offensive game to date has been better than expected, getting him on base more and all of that. So I think we're still dreaming a little bit if we're talking 40 steals. Let's say 30 steals. And let's say he hits 270. Right? So we start getting in that zone again of what does your team need? I'm sure he's he's not on the waiver wire. He's been added somewhere. We'll follow him as the season wears on, because last year was kind of messy with him offensively, but things are better this season. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Let's talk about some of the injuries before we move on to the FAAB. Frankie Montas left the game on the weekend with a right forearm bruise. They did imaging. There's nothing broken. There's nothing significant here. He was hit by a line drive, excuse me. Right now they're saying he could make his next start. I'd be reluctant to start him in his next outing. We'll see. We've discussed him previously. The velocity's down a little bit. The start-to-start consistency's down a little bit. The control's off a little bit. Been effective, but not exciting. I'd be cautious with his next outing, but at least we got a good report after what could have been something scary. Cristian Javier was placed on the injured list. This escalated quickly. All of a sudden, we heard a start was going to be skipped, and then boom, right after that, he's got a neck issue. He's going on the injured list. So they're not certain how much time he's going to miss. And Spencer Arrighetti will be recalled to take the spot of Javier. Arrighetti, with a strong outing and a weak outing, was demoted. We talked about him a lot here on the show. Javier is going to miss at least 2 weeks, and then we'll see. We don't have any clarity here on this. This could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months. I have no idea. No one has any idea. So we're back to that boat of shoot on Javier. Arrighetti is the guy we've discussed and written about over at fantasyguru.com. He'll get a chance to run through this rotation at least a couple of turns as the Astros, and let's be honest about this, they can't get healthy in that rotation. It's really, they get back Justin Verlander, they lose Cristian Javier. It's been a rough go at the start of the season for the Astros with that starting rotation. Merrill Kelly had an MRI on his shoulder. He was scratched from his start on Sunday. We don't know. I'll check right now as we're talking. There was no update before the show began. I don't think there's an update now. So we're in the nebulous zone of what's going on with Merrill Kelly. We'll find out soon enough. Not good news, obviously. Let's hope that it's a situation like Montas where it looks like it's not significant. But anytime, you know the deal. Yeah, we got to watch out with Merrill Kelly. Bryan Wu made his first first outing in the minor leagues on the weekend. He threw 3 no-hit innings, didn't walk anybody, struck out 5 on 35 pitches. Chef's kiss. Beautiful effort. I saw a report that suggests the velocity was down a little bit, which, again, it's his first outing. I also was talking to folks in Discord. Somehow, one of the sources out there says that Wu's expected back on May 1st. I haven't seen that anywhere. I don't know what. So let's not jump the gun. Know that on April 21st, the guy threw 35 pitches. So let's say April 6th, 7th, he makes his next outing. He throws 50 pitches. I mean, April 20, I can't even count. April 26th, 7th, excuse me. He throws 50 pitches. May 2nd, 3rd, he throws 75 pitches. He's not back on May 1st. He might be back on May 10th. Let's just get him back. I think that's the important thing. Good first step for Wu coming back from the elbow issue. Really good first step. We'll continue to follow him. As we know, he was someone I was extremely high on before the injury hit in the preseason. Okay. Jhoan Duran, who is going to start a rehab assignment on Tuesday in his return from his oblique issue. He's missed, 3.5 weeks here, 4 weeks, something like that with the oblique issue. He's probably going to need a couple outings. They probably won't leave him down there too long. A couple outings. He's throwing 101 miles an hour. They'll call him up. But good news for the Twins as he's moving back in the direction of positivity and nearing a return. Maybe by the end of the weekend, by next week, Jhoan Duran's back pitching for the Twins. Triston Casas is going to undergo an MRI on his rib issue, side issue. I guess they're calling it officially a rib issue. He admitted he's in a lot of pain. He's on the injured list, so we'll see what the results are. With all the information we have right now, you have to think it's longer than 10 days, but we'll see. Hopefully we get some good news today. I haven't seen anything yet on him. Blaze Alexander was removed from the game on Sunday. He had a cramp in his hamstring, so all things considered, this is obviously a positive. We'll see, what the lineups look like early in the week. He's obviously in the lineup because of the Perdomo injury, because Jordan Lawler's on the injured list down in the minors. Blaze Alexander's gotten all this run. He's been terrific to date. I expect the production to dwindle. I expect the playing time at some point to dwindle, but he has been an absolute fantasy godsend with all the injuries everyone's dealing with to this point. Let's hope that the issue with his hamstring was just a cramp and it's a short-term thing and he's back out there and rocking and rolling really soon. Okay, and you can see on the screen there, by the way, don't forget to get the baseball DFS package at fantasyguru.com. Get the baseball wagering package at fantasyguru.com. If you do that, you get all the other sports but football for free. NBA, NHL, PGA, racing, soccer, MMA, all of it free if you buy the MLB wagering or the MLB DFS package at fantasyguru.com. Jeff Mans also released his official rookie rankings. So those are up at the website right now, getting ready for the draft week and all of that. He gave some scouting reports as well. We have the offseason franchise mode package available right now at fantasyguru.com for the football folks, $19.99. You get all the coverage of the free agency, all the movement and all the player stuff there. And then you get the coverage through the draft as well. So you get all the player profiles, all the breakdowns and that. That's $19.99 available right now at fantasyguru.com. Click the Join Now tab in the top right corner and you're off and running. Okay, let me pull this up here as we try to get things back on track after a wonky start to the show here. There we go. Okay, let's pull that up. Let's talk some FAAB. TOUT Wars is one of the leagues I'm in. It's a 12-team league. It's the only 12-teamer I'm in. 12-team league. It's a different league. It has on-base percentage instead of batting average. It has innings pitched instead of wins. And we use solds instead of saves. So 3 differences from your local league. But as you can see it on the screen, we had a lot of movement this weekend. Mitchell Parker for $78. I don't like that. I think that's too much in a 12-team league, especially since we're talking about innings instead of wins, but okay. Mr. Pages, Andy Pages, went for $207. Again, I'm not a huge fan of that. We've talked about that. He's, I think, got 9 strikeouts and no walks here at the start when Jason Hayward's ready to go. I don't know if Pages sticks around. If you're going to spend 20% of your budget, because we have $1,000 here, if you're going to spend 20% of your budget on a guy, you need him to be locked into playing time. At least that's or have him be the final piece in August or something like that. And I just don't know if Pages is that guy. Could be really good, but there are questions about the playing time that precluded me from being interested like that. Look at, Wynn for 62, Williams for 12, McGuire for 12, Gordon for 12, like all these blah, blah, blah. No one's excited. James MacArthur for 42. Now, remember, Solds League, not a saves league. So he only went for $42 there. Harrison Bader is an addition all across the landscape this week. He's been hot of late. Let's pull up the numbers real quick on Harrison Bader. But I think the issue with Harrison Bader, as we're all aware, is how long is it going to be until he gets hurt? Because the last 2 weeks, he's played 10 games, 8 runs. He's gone deep once, stolen 3 bases, and hitting 385. Like, he's in a nice groove right now. And you see that reflected in the addition here. And again, remember, this is an on-base percentage league as well that we're talking about. Tyler Anderson went for $43. Tyler Anderson's pitching great. He's totally that guy that doesn't miss bats. He's totally that non-sexy player. He is pitching great. I don't like his matchups this week. If I remember right, they were rough. Let me pull this up real quickly here. Who's he facing this week? Facing Baltimore this week. Yeah, so, But he's pitched well. And when you're in this scenario where we're grabbing the Mitchell Parkers of the world, guys like Tyler Anderson don't look too bad. Mr. Clase of the Mariners was at it for $57. Decent start for him as a youngster. Still not clear what his playing time will be. Blackburn was purchased for $29 by yours truly. Why? Not because I'm starting him this week, but because I need pitching. I need pitching badly. I've got injuries to Max Scherzer, Framber Valdez. I lost Robert Stevenson. Aroldis Chapman is not pitching well, so that's where we're at there. That's a desperation move on my part. I picked up Colin Poche over Giovanni Gallegos. Again, remember, this is a Solds league. I really hemmed and hawed over this. I didn't want to do it, but at the end I did. Only spent $13 of my $1,000. I barely got involved. Mauricio Dubon for $38 was another one of my additions. Dubon has been really good, and I needed some help up the middle. I'm dealing with some poor performances and health issues. Brandon Rogers, I don't know. He came back yesterday, but where's he at? And Dubon, I mean, again, it's an on-base percentage league, and he's only at 321. But the last 2 weeks, he's played 12 games. He's got 9 RBIs, got 357 on-base percentage. Last week was 412. So I did the short-term pickup. We'll roll with them for a while, and he's got positional flexibility here or there. Nothing to get excited about. Okay, let's talk about the next league, which is FAAB for LABR. LABR's a 15-teamer. It's a $100 expenditure right there. You can see that. Jorge Polanco went for 22 of 100. That's a big spend. Now, Polanco's struggled to start the year, no doubt, but I fully anticipate him improving. And I think that, that's a significant move because I have a hole kind of thing, but it could pay off. Polanco with health should be a very effective player. And you can see there that the Baseball Prospectus team overspent if you look at the way the rest of the room handled it. But again, if you've got a need, sometimes you just got to be aggressive and address that. Jonathan Clase went for 9, failed bids of 2, 4, and 7. We talked about Hector Neris earlier. He went for $8 with those failed bids of 3, 4, 4, 3, 4. So everyone kind of in that similar range to Kirby Yates, except for the one bid that went for 8. Yates was in 2 to 5. Everyone kind of bid here. It was basically 3 to 4 here with the one outlier that ended up with Neris. Reed Garrett went for $7. 4 $1 bids for him that failed. He's been terrific, and he might actually be working his way into the second spot. Brooks Raley's dealing with an injury. He might be working himself into the main setup role with the Mets with his dominance in the strikeout column. And again, this is a solds league. So if he starts working 7th, 8th inning, consistently getting those solds, very attractive player. Oh, excuse me. What am I saying? This is a FAAB league. That is not the case. I misspoke. I'm all thrown off because of the mistake with the audio earlier. This is a regular 5x5 league in LABR. So that is not the case. With Reed Garrett, we're getting a ton of strikeouts. We're hoping for a few saves. We're hoping for a few wins. This is more ratio stabilizer it is than anything else. Wilyer Abreu went for 7 with those failed bids of 5, 4, 4, 3, and 3. Andy Padgett went here for 7. Remember, we talked about him going for 20% in the previous league. This league, he went for 7%, so much different. This is a much safer zone to be in. Other bids for Pages were 2 and 5. Miguel Amaya went to $4 for $4. Albert Suarez went for $3. He's starting again today for the Orioles after his remarkable first effort. His first start since 2016. Mark Leiter went to Fantasy Guru for $3. I have one save guy, and it's Tanner Scott, right? Is that who I've got in this league? Let me pull this up as we're talking here so I can make sure that I'm giving you the straight scoop, as you will. Looking at my team right now in the saves column, I've got what league is this? This is LABR. I'm in the wrong league. There we go. There we go, Ray. I have Craig Kimbrell and Mason Miller. So I was just adding a guy, hoping to get some depth there. This is a league that you can trade in. I'm dealing with the loss of Lucas Giolito, who I was hoping to give 180 innings. Yuri Perez, who's done for the season. So kind of pivoting a little bit in this deeper league to a scenario where I'm focusing a little bit more on ratios and relievers than I am on starting pitchers at the moment. Jacob Young went for $2. Dr. Roto. Gabriel Arias went for $2. Jhoan Rojas, $2, and David Schneider, $2. So a lot of guys down there at the bottom. Finally, the FSGA 14-team mixed league with a $1,000 FAAB budget. This is the league where it was really surprising. Daulton Varsho was let go. He went for $245, so 25% of the budget to add Varsho this weekend. As you can see there were other bids of $225, $133, $178, $115. Even with the issues with his batting average, he's going to play pretty much every day, and he's going to have those counting categories there. So Varsho went for big money after someone inexplicably dropped him. I don't know why someone would drop him in a 14-team mixed league. Pages in this league had failed bids of 48, 68, 74, 74, 45, 33, 42, 23, 23. He went for 87. So we had Pages going for 7% in one league, 9% in one league, 20% in the other league. Casey Mize went to Colton the Wolfman for 79. I got Kyle Gibson for 39. I think they're basically the same pitcher. I'm way more comfortable with the price point I paid than what Mize went for. You look at other bids for Mize, 32, 39, and 13. Mine was the $39 bid, by the way. Because remember, it's a 14-team mixed league. And again, I'm not being hypocritical. I know who Mize is, but I got Kyle Gibson, right? Like, if that's the zone I'm in, so hunting for starting pitching in a 14-team mixed league is not easy. So keep that in mind. Don't make sure we're not talking about a 10-team league here or anything like that. Hector Neris went for 67. Failed bids at 14, 39, and 26. Guess who had the 39? Cole Keith went for 51. Wilyer Abreu went for 48. Bunch of bids for him. All those bids in the $13 to $37 range, below the $48 winning bid. Harrison Bader went for 23. Bunch of failed bids for him, from $3 to $13. Mauricio Dubon went for $18. $18 is the same price for Jock Peterson. Same price for Miguel Sano. $18 was the price point this week for some reason. That's weird. Richie Polanco, so all of a sudden, is picking up a lot of playing time with the Rays. $11. He's performed very well of late. Tim Anderson, $4. Burchard, $3. Willie Castro, $3. So those are some of the lower end bids there. So there's a little review of FAAB. We'll do this every Monday. I usually give more depth. I'm sorry about that. Trying to keep the show on track here today. I've got that extra hour that I'm doing with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. Today I'll be on 3 to 4. The show is 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. So I just don't have time to go through this in as much depth as I have recently in the past. So we'll return to giving more depth next week when it comes to talking about the FAAB situation. Let's talk about some of the comments here. Doug says, hello, morning. Mario says, hello, good morning. No worries, Ray. Brandon. Yeah, I apologize, everyone. I really ruined this whole thing. And here's Angelo talking about it. Yeah, Angelo, we talked about, if you missed it, or maybe this was just a comment while I was talking about Mitchell Parker. I know what he did. Okay, but that doesn't change the scouting report. That doesn't change the eyeball test. That, guys have good starts, guys have bad starts all over the place. And again, in certain scenarios, maybe he makes sense. I know that most of you seem to be in head-to-head leagues. In a head-to-head league, you want to play a matchup with a guy? Go at it. I'm not in head-to-head leagues. I don't play head-to-head leagues. I don't believe in head-to-head leagues. Okay, so to me, adding a guy that I'm worried about, his matchup, and I know that there's not a lot of staying power here. I talked about earlier, in Miami against the Marlins this week, that's a good matchup. So we can talk about using him short-term, just not someone I want to use long-term. Angelo says Tyler O'Neill should be back tomorrow. We don't know that. We're hoping he's back tomorrow. That's the expectation. But remember, the expectation also was that he wasn't hurt, or they didn't have a concussion. And then he did have a concussion. And then he didn't, but then he did. So it looks like he's eligible to return on Tuesday. And that seems to be the expectation right now. But given the fact that the scenario played out the way it did, with his head injury not being a concussion, then being ruled a concussion, I'm just being cautious here. But yeah, he absolutely could be back this week. So thanks for listening, everybody. Sorry for the start of the show today, which was technologically challenged. I'll go and clean everything up here. I'll be back tomorrow here on Fantasy Sports Day at 11 o'clock Eastern in the morning. Hopefully you'll get a chance to listen to me with Jeff Mans today for an hour from 3 to 4. Jeff's on 3 to 6 Eastern on Elite Sports. Elite Sports Game Time later tonight. Myself and Justin Fensterman, we're on from 8 to 10. We've got all the goodness going. I got to go write the cash game breakdown over at fantasyguru.com as well. Don't forget to join us. FSD20 is the promo code. Get that wagering or DFS package for baseball and get the other sports added in for free besides football. If you want to get the football franchise mode, which is all the offseason coverage up to the draft, get that right now. It's $19.99 over at fantasyguru.com. And Jeff Mans did release his full rankings of the rookies broken down by position, looked at overall, and it's got some scouting reports on the guys too. So check that out over at fantasyguru.com. All right. Thanks for listening today. Sorry about the problems. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Hey, look, I guess at the end of the day, this is what, episode 125. We finally had a problem. We had a pretty good run. We had a 4-month run or 5-month run before we had some tech issues. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Don't forget to find me over at fantasyguru.com, at the Ray Flowers on the social media spots. I got a lot to do today. I'm going to get to it. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern right here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.